I want to do a quick tutorial about how to set up your very own Mumble server and run it from your desktop. You can use this while you're gaming, invite your friends in while you guys are playing, and just kind of host that on your own without having to worry about a third party hosting that for you. I see a lot of people using Skype and recommending that to other people, and I really think that's just a terrible idea. Skype is pretty resource intensive. The voiceover quality is very subpar. So I'd like to offer up Mumble, which is a free solution, open source solution that you can run by yourself from your own computer. So I just want to show you how it works and how to get it set up. There are several resources out there, but I found whenever I was doing this for myself, I had to look in a few different places, and sometimes it was just a little confusing. So I want to make a nice comprehensive guide to kind of go over everything. So what we're going to be looking at is installing Mumble, the client and the service components. Getting it set up and started. We're going to edit the ini file to do some customization with the server. We're going to talk about the logging of Mumble and where you can find that and the different varieties that it's logged to. We're going to look at the Superuser, how to get that password, because that's one of the trickier parts of Mumble, and also how to change that password. And then once you have it, how to set up your user account access lists and stuff like that. And then I'm actually going to show you the Mumble server that I run for myself, for me and my friends. So what I have here is a VM that I've stood up just for the purpose of demonstrating this, setup. You're going to want to start with a couple different files. We are going to want to go to mumble.com and grab the Mumble client from the right there. And also you want to download NSSM if you're interested in automating your Mumble server. If you don't mind to start it up manually every time you want to use it, that's fine. But if you would like it to be automated and run it as a Windows service, you can use this program here, and we'll get into that towards the end of the video. So we'll just go ahead and get started. I've already downloaded the files we need. We'll go ahead and start the install for Mumble, and we're going to install. And this is a really quick install here. We'll just do next there, accept the terms, and then on our second, the server component option, we'll choose the second option in that menu. We'll install the full server components, and we're just going to install. Okay, and then I'm going to choose not to start Mumble, because if we start Mumble, it's going to start the client. We are currently right now really worried about Murmur, which is your server component. So if you hit Windows key and E, you can open up your Windows Explorer, go to your C drive, Program Files 86, and Mumble, and this is where we are ready to begin digging in. Now that we have the program installed, I'd like to go ahead and dig into the ini file for Murmur real quick. If we just open this up in a notepad, I think since it's in the program files, it's going to have a hard time saving the changes just due to permissions issues. So you can use a text editor to do this. I like to use Sublime Text. I've actually installed that before we started. And you're going to want to run this thing as an administrator. You can use Sublime Text if you like that. You can use Notepad++. You can probably even use just standard Notepad, but you want to go ahead and open up your ini file. Oops, wrong button there. And go to your Murmur directory. Right, and you're going to find murmur.ini. This guy here. There's a few things you want to do first. I'm going to comment out this right there. That's the SQLite database that's going to hold logs in. Down here, this log file, it will also, if you uncomment this, it will log murmur logs to murmur.log in your program files directory. Also, you can change your welcome message for your server to be whatever you want. It uses a not quite HTML, but something very similar, so it might take you, if you're familiar with HTML, you might have to play around with it a little bit to get it to be how you want. But I mean, you can even add images in there and different text and stuff. Down here is your port. This is if you are interested in hosting this over the internet, you would want to forward this in your router, and this is actually something I'm not going to cover in this tutorial because everyone's router is different. You can probably find a tutorial for your specific router on YouTube, or there's a site called portforward.com that can help you out with that. and you can do that exactly. Personally, the router I use may help some of you. It may be useless to some others, so I'm just not gonna go over that. The server password is something you'll want to set. I'm just gonna call it like test pass. It's gonna be stored in this INL in plain text, so just keep that in mind. Lots of options in here. I'm gonna post a link to a wiki to let you kind of look at an explanation of all the settings. This is something I like to edit. Whenever you create your server and start it up, you're gonna have just a root channel, and it's gonna be like, it's just gonna say root. So if you want to have something custom, you can put that in here. So we'll just call it like test channel, and want to uncomment that out. There's lots of different options in here. That's pretty much all I want to mess with at the moment. So I'm going to save this, and it should have changed our settings. Next, we're going to go ahead and open up Murmur for the first time, and this should generate a password for us for the Superuser. So I'm just going to run Murmur right here, and now it's in our system tray. And if we right click that and do show log, it's going to give us some information here. And right here is the password for the Superuser. Whenever you run Murmur for the first time, it's going to generate a password for you so that you don't have to set it, and the Superuser can be accessed with this password. So I'm going to write that down like in a text document here. But as you can see, it's quite unfriendly. It's not something you're going to likely to remember, so we'll talk a few minutes about how to change that password. Also, that's going to be held, I'm going to close this, it's going to be held in a murmur log, which right now we set in the INI to generate logs in a murmur text log, but it looks like it's not showing up. This is something that's a little finicky, I've noticed. It's like if you set it up, it doesn't show for you, but after you start and stop the server a couple times, it'll show up. So it should be around here somewhere, but it looks like it's not there. But I guarantee if we come back 10 minutes later, it'll be there after, restarting the server a few times. It should, however, have logged a SQLite database in your users folder. Yeah, so there's that. So I'm just going to go over, if you're interested in accessing a database and looking at the murmur logs that way, you can do that rather than looking at it in a text file. So I'm going to go over that. If that's something you're not interested, you can feel free to skip over this. And once we complete this, we'll talk about changing the Superuser password. So we're going to dig into that. So there's a program we can use called LinkPad. It is used for .NET developers, and you can grab it from linkpad.net. I'm sure there's other solutions that will be used that you can use to look at these SQLite databases, but I like LinkPad. I use it at work actually, and it's pretty handy. So you can go to linkpad.net and download that. I have previously installed that, so I'm just going to open mine. And once it loads up here, you're not going to have any connections. It's going to look very similar to this. You want to come in your connection tree and hit add connection. And what you're looking to do is choose a connection type. And we're going to want IQ. Now this is not going to be here by default. What you'll want to do is go to view more drivers. And here's just a list of different drivers you can get. They're one-click installs from LinkPad. So just click there, the very first one, IQ driver, download and enable driver. It's going to take just a matter of a couple seconds. And then it'll populate in your connection type selection menu here. So we'll just choose that and click next. Now we're just going to change the properties. So we'll do a SQLite option because that's what Murmur is logging to. And we want to point it to the location of the log. And it's going to show up here. I like to put it in here. If you would have left the INI file blank where the SQLite log connection was towards the top, it would go in the program files directory, but I like to put it in here. So now we have that connection going. We'll just add a friendly name for Mumble. That way it's not like C users Taylor Murmur. So, all right, cool. We're connected here, and we can see all the different tables that are in that database. As always, when you're querying things, you want to make sure you hit your right connection. And one thing to note about LinkPad is that you can use C# is the kind of the main thing, but you can also use SQL. So we're going to change it to SQL. And now we can do select star from slog. and we can view our logs in a queryable form. Your output may look a little different than mine. I've went to Edit, Preferences, Results, and changed my results to a data grid rather than HTML, just because it makes it smaller and it's a little cleaner. If you do change it to data grid, you'll probably just want to open a new query to make those changes actually reflect. So there's that first line. It's very similar to what we saw a minute ago when we just checked out the logs from the bottom in the system tray. Another thing to note, this is going to come in handy a little bit later, but you want to know what socket your server's on. Most likely it's going to be 1, but we can find that out by looking at the servers table. And we want to do select star from servers and change our language to SQL. And our server ID is server 1. Like I say, that's the default one. It could be 0. A long time ago when I was first setting mine up, I think I did some stuff kind of weird and mine ended up being on the 0 socket, but 1 is likely where you'll be. So that's just a quick look at some of the logs and how to query those. I'm pretty sure you can use C# if you'd like, and you can sort these out and do where clauses and look at your timestamps and all kinds of good stuff. So if you're interested in that, that's where you find that. Now that we actually have the Superuser password, I want to go ahead and change it, and I want to show you guys how that works. I've created a batch file based off of some instructions I've found on the Mumble wiki, and I'll walk you through creating that batch file if that's something you want to keep. Otherwise, you'll have to type this in manually, pretty much, so you don't want to do that. A batch file is essentially just a file that you can create in any text editor, and you give it the .bat extension to make it executable. And whenever you do that, it's going to run a command, so pretty much whatever you type in. I'm going to copy all this in, and we'll go over what this is doing and show you how to make it. First part is calling the murmur executable, and I like to keep this in the directory where Mumble is. So for me personally, murmur is going to be a local call right there. Then your ini, just to specify that you're going to change something about the server, and this is the location of your ini file. And unlike murmur.exe, you can't just call murmur.ini. You have to give it the full path for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. Then you're going to change with this switch. You're basically just going to say that you're editing the superuser password. You're naming a string, which I'm just going to call fartballs. And then you're selecting the socket, essentially. And again, that's from linkpad in the servers table, server 1. This is anything you want to be. I'm going to do fartballs for my password. And then I also put a pause at the end there. So to save this as a batch file, what you want to do is go to File, Save As, wherever you want to save it, change your type to all files, and then give it a name, so like change pass dot, and your extension again is BAT to make it executable. So if we were to just run this right here, it's actually not going to work because murmur is not a recognized command. But if I change that and put this in my directory and then run it, it's going to give me the message that we've changed the password for the superuser on server 1. Alright, so that's done. Now we can use that password to connect, and we changed it from this giant string here that's super ugly to a more friendly password that's easier for us to remember. Next, what we'll want to do is go ahead and log into the Mumble server, and we'll log in as a superuser because that is the only user that is going to have admin privileges at this time. So go ahead and make sure that we start the murmur instance so that we can actually connect to it. And then I'm just going to make a desktop shortcut for now for Mumble and run this. And when you start, it's going to look something like this. If you chose the blue skin, it'll look like this. If you chose the standard skin, it's going to look like a white and kind of a gray color. So you can minimize that public and go to Add New Connection. Label is whatever you want. It's freeform string. I'm just going to call it superuser. The address for us is localhost because we are connecting to the Murmur instance that is running on the same computer that Mumble is running from. So localhost is the server. Username is Superuser. I'm not sure if it's case sensitive, but it is one word. And the password is fartballs. And it's going to be whatever you had set it to. So hit OK to save it. And just double click to get connected. So now we're connected in. The test channel, if you remember, that's what we had edited in our INI a while ago. So there's the root channel. So from here, we'll have privileges to do whatever we need to do. I'd like to go ahead and create a new user because when you're using your server, you want to have full admin privileges, but you don't want to be the super user all the time, right? You want to use like your gamer tag or whatever. So if you click the world icon, add a new connection, we'll just call it like user. Localhost is the same, port's the same. Username is whatever you want to call yourself, so it will be fartboy. Clear out the password because what was in that was for the super user. Hit OK and connect. And it should at this time ask you for a password. And it'll be whatever password was in your INI. Remember earlier I did a test pass for mine, and it'll ask you, once you put that in one time, you don't have to change it. So I had actually done like a test connectivity between recordings here, so that's why it didn't ask me, but it'll certainly ask you for it. So now once you're in here, you'll want to register yourself. I've already done that, but you can right click your own username and go to register user, and it's going to be somewhere in here. It's not there for me because I'd already done it previously. And then you'll want to disconnect and log in as the admin, or the super user, excuse me. Right click on the root channel and choose edit, and this will let you edit anything with the server, any of the user groups, any of the control lists. Whatever you put in place in this root channel will trickle down to the sub channels that you make from there, so long as they are inheriting the ACLs, which by default is going to be true. So ACLs are your access control lists for just permissions and stuff. So as the super user, to add the user that you had just connected to just prior to this step, you'll want to find your admin group, which I think is already a default group of Mumble. If not, you can add it. And then you'll want to come to the bottom and type in your user and then click add. Again, I've already done that between recordings, so it's already done for me. And then in ACL, you really shouldn't have to edit anything because admins are already going to have full privileges, so they're good to go. So I'm going to cancel there, and we'll reconnect with the other user. And again, we are admins here. So from here, we can edit, permissions. We can edit the properties of the channel, just the comments and stuff. We can add new channels. So if we were to add like an FPS channel, segregate the games out so people aren't in the same channel talking to each other. You can add, I like to do an AFK channel if someone's going to be away. And one cool thing, this is just a quick little side note, I like to have my AFK channel automatically mute anyone who enters. And you can do that if you go to edit, and this is going to be on the channel in particular, not for the whole server, just the channel. Go to ACL and then go to add. Anything that's at the bottom is going to take priority over what's at the top. So all says anybody can do, they can come in here, they can speak, they can whisper, all that stuff. But if what's ever at the bottom will override that. So if we change this to in, we could probably do all, but in's probably more correct. And then we can deny like speaking privileges, making channel privileges, linking channels, whispering to other like members in the server, messages, stuff like that. So now if someone enters the channel, they'll be automatically muted, and this is just a nice touch to let people come in the AFK channel and actually not be bothered. I've been on servers before where you go in the AFK channel so that you can be away, and then people come in there and they scream at you and just act super goofy, so that's a nice little touch to have. Next, I'd like to go ahead and go back to my desktop and show you my actual Mumble server that I run for me and my friends. So I'm going to sign in here, and I'll just connect as my user.
Connected.
And as you can see, I still need to update to the latest version. I just haven't done that yet. But this is just to show you kind of what I have going on in my server. I've got a little image here that I've put up on like an image hosting site. I'm referencing that. I got some custom text. I've got custom channels. Got that AFK channel I was talking about a minute ago. I've got just some images on every channel just to show a nice cool picture. And I set those to the same size so they're just nice and uniform. I have a comment about how to set up the FTP sharing that I have, which is just kind of nice. I have a channel for Twitch streaming, and there's a Twitch users group, so if I'm streaming and I want to stream with someone, they can come in here and we can chat, and other people don't have to come in and bother us. So it's just kind of an example of what you can do with your Mumble server. Mine's not that advanced, but it works well for me and my group. So what I want to do next is show you how other users are going to connect to your Mumble server, and I'm going to do this both ways. I'm going to connect from my desktop to the VM. I have bridge mode enabled, so that connection should be fine. I'm just going to get my IP address here. If you're at a LAN party or something like that, you can have your buddies connect to your IP. So I'm going to make a new connection, and it's actually going to show LAN servers. So add new, we'll just do like test addresses 192.168.1.102. I'm going to keep my same name. This is going to be a different password than what I have. And I'm going to connect.
Disconnected from server.
Alright, it's going to make me go ahead and grab that certificate, and it's going to make me do the password.
Rejected. Wrong password. Connected.
Alright, so I'm connected in. And I can see all the channels that we've made before. Real quick, I'm going to hop out of this one and connect to my normal one.
Disconnected from server.
And I want to show you that we are able to go across the internet. I'm using a dynamic IP host, and I set up just a test one to just be able to show you guys. Add new test. I'm pretty sure it is testx3.ddns.net, and we'll give this guy a name. Right, and we'll connect. And this again, guys, this is going across the internet, not just on the LAN. So this is what my buddies do. They just use my actual DDNS name.
Other fart boy connected.
All right, so I'm in here, and now I'm able to navigate this server just like over the internet. So it's pretty handy. So that pretty much takes care of getting the Mumble set up and configured. One last thing I want to do is to show you guys how to automate your Mumble server. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect here. And what we're looking to do is use a program called NSSM that we downloaded way earlier in the video, and automate our murmur instance. So I'm just going to close out all this. And what it's basically going to do is start this executable up for us automatically, so we don't have to do it manually whenever the computer starts. So I'm going to quit murmur right there. So what you'll do is extract your NSSM to a folder, and you can put it wherever. I like to put it in my Mumble directory just to make it easier for me. What you're going to do is open that up. You're going to look for whatever OS you have. So I use the 64-bit OS. If you're 32, you'll go up there. So Win64 for me. And if you just try to run this, it's actually not going to do anything. It's just going to show you the commands. So you'll want to actually call this from a command prompt. And here's a little trick for you if you guys weren't aware. If you click into Windows Explorer and type in CMD, enter, it's going to open command prompt from the directory that you were in Windows Explorer. So now, if I just call NSSM locally, that'll work. And you also want to say install. So nssm.exe space install. And it's going to do the UAC stuff, but it's going to bring you the GUI. Alright, so now what we can do is give NSSM the path to murmur. So that's program files, Mumble, murmur. We're going to give it service name, Mumble. If we want, we can set details. We can give it a description. So like something like that, whatever you want to do. And we'll just do install. So now it's installed and we're pretty much done. We can go into services and look at it and manage it like any other Windows service. So anything you see in here, if it's set to automatic, it's going to start with Windows, and there's lots of different services in a Windows computer. But we're looking for Mumble, and there it is. So it's set to start automatically with the computer. Right now it's not started because it was installed in a stopped state and it has not been started yet. But if we were to restart this server, it would start the Mumble service, which in turn is going to call murmur.exe. So if we'd like, we can start the service. And now you'll notice it's actually not going to populate down here. Any other time through the video, it's been down here. It's actually in the background now. So if we open up Task Manager, go to Details, we'll see that it's running. But just to show you that it is up and running now, you can connect to, this is our local host instance that we set up earlier, get our certificate. And we're here. So that is it, guys. I think that pretty much wraps up everything. If you have any questions or anything, just post them down in the comments and we'll check it out. Thanks so much.